The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our April webinar on migration risk. We have a title of Top 10 Risks to Manage in Project Online Migrations. I have a 10 plus because you'll see that we couldn't contain ourselves, just limited to 10. So there's actually 12 in one category, which we call technical, and which we call process. So there's a lot to manage in a project online migration, and that's why we felt compelled to continue our thought leadership in this subject matter, given that we're doing so many of them, and give you the latest. I have Carl Gonchar, who will also deliver the webinar with me, and I'll be handing over to her the technical contents, and she is the true SME. She leads our migration team within FluentPro and has so much knowledge given her experience with so many migrations. So, as your host, just going to start with our wheel of value for customer success, and we're going to be talking about books primarily, but also GA. So GA Suite is becoming an important component in migrations. Talk about how you can actually use that in a migration playbook. But for those of you that haven't been with us previously, this is the products that we offer, and there's a few more in our website that are not here. So please try and look at our product portfolio. For this particular initiative of talking about migration risk, we're going to be talking primarily about Fluent Books because we're talking about project server to project online migrations. However, like I said, in this playbook concept that we'll touch at the end, the GUIs can become an important component, and I'll explain that at the end. But now what I would like to do is have everybody give us an idea of why you're interested in this topic, just to understand your interest in migrations. Everybody could come in and just let us know. Just have everybody almost through. There are a few people, few folks that are going to be doing a migration. So yeah, you'll get the latest from us on migrations. And I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. So the majority of folks are in knowledge gathering mode, and everyone else is about to do migration. So with that, we'll get started with our project online migration trends top. So just we do track based on our sizing questionnaires and our support that we provide in the market. Migrations are still active, so it's still a topic. There's still a large set of organizations that are in Project Server and are looking to leverage the benefits of PPM in the cloud, Project Online. The majority of the growth is what we call the medium migration. So 250 projects to 1,000 projects. That's really where the majority of what we're currently seeing. Since I would say the fourth quarter of 2016. Very few very large migrations. So they have come 2,000 greater than 2,000 projects, and we're actually participating in a couple. So we have a lot of experience in that directly and indirectly. Very small migrations, those can be done. If you have something that's very, very small, you can probably get away with doing manually. And in cases, those are separate configurations. So it's basically an effort, a trade-off of effort. It is not a trade-off, by the way, in accuracy, because we have proven that even for very small migrations using FluentBooks, using our tools and using our process, if you're after data accuracy, it doesn't matter how large the migration is, you should use tools to drive that data integrity. So that's really, really important. So from the chart, basically what's growth is everything but the green ones, which are the very large ones, and the small ones are also not growing. So we're talking about basically anything that's better than 250 and less than 1,500 projects is where a lot of activity in migrations is currently taking place. And with that, I will open up my poll and just general interest. What's the size of your current PWA, if you happen to be a project service project online organization? And we have interest moving around. It's moving. People are just where they are. We're talking about active projects. So okay, we'll give it a couple more seconds. It's moving around, but we'll close it so we can see what the results are. So basically, we have large distribution of very large instances, which is good. That's what this whole migration process that we've developed addresses, as well as there are some that are small. So again, if you're after data integrity, like I said earlier, using our process and tools can benefit your organization. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to Aliona, who's going to give us some perspectives on new lessons learned, as well as some of the risks in doing project online migrations.
Thank you, Jose. Hello, everyone. I would like to start with sharing some new lessons learned that we gathered in our recent migrations. Like, this is some experience that we would like to share with you. So among those new lessons learned, I would like, first of all, to mention that approving and publishing timesheets before you start the migration, before you start downloading projects from your source PWA, in addition to republishing these projects before downloading them, helps to improve the data integrity in migrated projects, and specifically the migration of actuals in the projects. And for a bulk republish of projects in the source PWA, FluentBooks can also be used. There is a specific wizard developed for these purposes. We also discovered some new limitations. One of them is related to the CSOM API, which FluentBooks uses to migrate the data in Project Online. And this limitation is related to project owner for master projects. Current API does not allow to update the project owner for master projects, and so project owner is set to the migration account. Another limitation is related to documents in the libraries in project sites. And if there are any files that have a checked out version, but no any checked in version yet, like the document was added, but never checked in for public visibility, these documents also cannot be downloaded due to limitation of API. So before downloading project sites, documents need to be checked in. Another lessons learned is related to migration from Project Server 2010 to Project Online. In older versions, there can be an action items list, which has type of tasks. And we observed in several migrations actually that the title of the list is action items, but in the URL it says tasks. And in Project Online, there is an out-of-the-box tasks list that is connected to the project, and tasks from the project schedule are synchronized as items into this list. So during the migration from Project Server 2010 to Project Online, there can be a conflict between these lists. And basically, tasks list in Project Online is not editable. It can only be synchronized from the schedule. So in order to keep action items from Project Server 2010 during the migration, additional steps are required to correct the URL of this list. And in Project Online, you will have both tasks list with synchronizable items and historical action items list with your items. And another lesson that we learned is when migrating a really large projects, like projects that have 10,000 tasks and more, it can be a pretty tricky process because first of all, it takes a long time and upload of this project can fail. So we were experimenting with how to handle this situation, and migrating these projects of this size would require an additional wizard in FluentBooks that would allow to split the process of the upload. I would also like to share the migration risks that are related to the technical side of the migration. Number one is related to the account and resource mapping. So when you migrate your configuration, you also migrate your resource center, enterprise resources. Some of them are work, some of them are cost type, some of them are generics. And those resources that also have a user logon specified so that they could access the PWA. In the source PWA, they have accounts in one format. If it's on premises, it's usually domain/username synchronized from Active Directory. And in Project Online, as you know, accounts have a completely different format. It's Office 365 accounts. So when we migrate resource pool, we basically change all old user accounts to the new ones in the migrated resource center. And this requires a mapping when you map your source user account to the target one. And this process should be extremely accurate because if it's done with mistakes or like missing accounts, this can be hard to correct, difficult to correct after projects are uploaded. This also can lead to data integrity issues in migrated projects because your assignments could be moved to another user if the mapping was incorrect. And also incomplete account mapping may result in duplicated resources that will be created by Active Directory synchronization of the Active Directory group and security group. So accuracy in account and resource mapping is one of the key factors of preserving data integrity. When we migrate projects, there are several types of projects. There are standard projects, and there are also master projects that contain like certain number of sub-projects. And we observed that Because master projects are usually much more complex than standard ones, and they can contain like at least 2 sub-projects, and we saw like master projects with 20 and more sub-projects. What we observed is that average download, upload, and verification time is longer than for standard projects, and it really depends on the complexity and on the number of sub-projects in this master. And one more risk is actually also related to specific behavior of a project professional that is used for projects migration. Project summary tasks in projects can have cost budget resources assigned to them. In project professional, when the project is uploaded, it is not possible to substitute a local cost budget resource with an enterprise one, just because Microsoft project doesn't allow this. So cost budget resources assigned to project summary tasks, they remain local, and to avoid the conflict between the local resource and enterprise one having the same name, name is slightly changed, like one is appended to each cost budget resource. And to correct the project after migration, there are some additional manual steps that are required. Basically, after the project is migrated, we would need to open this project from PWA in Project Professional and manually substitute this local cost budget resources with enterprise ones. Limitation of Project Pro is related only to the first save and publish of the project to PWA. When the project already exists, it is possible to change the resources and to correct them. In Project Server, you might have workflows, project workflows, and site templates that you use to create project sites. And what we observed that workflows and site templates, especially from Project Server 2010, they need to be rebuilt for Project Online, because due to architecture differences and like the way they were built in older versions of Project Server, they're not supported in Project Online. So it is good to keep in mind that additional efforts would be required for rebuilding workflows and site templates specifically for Project Online, and this should be included in your migration plan. Also, we observed that projects that have large number of assignments per task, like 50 and more per task, upload of such projects, like average time, is longer when you upload projects to the Project Online, just because the publish of the project takes longer, like the process is in the queue is processed longer. So this should also be taken into account when you create your migration plan. Quality of source data also matters for the migration, because even if you do the data assessment before starting the migration, not all issues can be identified. Some of them can only be caught when you start downloading the data or uploading it to the target PWA. And if there are any issues with the source data, this certainly affects the migration, because these issues need to be addressed, and sometimes remigrating broken items needs to be done after fixing them in the source system. And some examples of such issues are like broken link in master projects, when in the master project there is a link to a sub-project, but sub-project actually does not exist anymore. This usually causes issues during the upload of master project, when the corresponding sub-project is not found. Also, removed fields in formula fields Also, a good example of like issues with the source data, because formulas, they can be used in task fields, in resource fields, and if any of custom fields that participate in formulas are removed, this causes to the errors with the data. Also, what we observed in the source data during the migrations is that in project server there can be duplicated resources, like that resources, they have the same display name but different UID, and it is not easy to handle these resources when you create the mapping. And I would like to turn over to Jose to talk about migration risks related to the process. Thank you. Jose, are you here?
Yes. See my screen? Okay. So I want to talk about now the process. So it's interesting because my role as VP Sales Engagement Manager, account manager, allows me to participate in managing of the project, of the initiative overall, and I have the benefit of relying on very deep technical experts within my organizations. These are some of the things that we've seen in when we're supporting an organization or supporting a partner in terms of steps to avoid from a process standpoint. So the first is incomplete migration strategy or planning, and this has to do with defining exactly what it is that's going to be migrated. Whether how much is active, how much are going to be inactive or archive projects, and having a very clear definition of what is going over to project online. Also the timing, the schedule, the cutover, all those details that go into having a very solid migration plan. You'd be surprised how this part of a migration is underestimated. Now, we do provide orientation and assessments where your specific scenario is provided to our migration team, and then a recommendation is made on the best approach. So, that comes with the premium support that we offer and the part of the subscription. So, it's very important to leverage that in order to take care of that one important step when you're initiating the migration. Two, also has to do with that initial training, lack of experience with project server, project online, from books from the team that's perform it. I think there's a general tendency to, we have a tool, now we can do it. And it's really after you've done it at least 3 or 4 times that you get enough experience in managing the tool. And even at that point, depending on the data, because that's one of the important parts of number one, doing a data assessment to see the quality of the data that you're going to be migrating. Even when you do have experience, the lack of experience can hit you, especially when you're talking about, very, very large data sets, very large projects, very large master projects like Alona just mentioned. We also have the issue of understanding technical boundaries of project online. Those are documented. So, it's very easy to see them online, but it's also the technical boundaries of project online in the context of integration. There is such a thing as throttling. There is such a thing as number of accounts that you can use, and not having that press can create an issue. And really, it hits when you're setting expectations with your customer or stakeholder in terms of how long it's going to take. Unfortunately, we are within the constraints of the Microsoft Cloud and Project Online, so that has to be taken into account in your project plan. We have some metrics terms of what it takes for projects to be uploaded, and that's how we plan our projects. In a lot of cases, organizations and the partners will not understand that and will provide unrealistic estimates in terms of completing a project online migration. Uh, the PWAs of the project online are part of a larger tenant. So as number 4, we've encountered situations where changes occurred within the tenant during the migration, which have impacted the actual migration project. So that basically you have to be in sync with your Office 365 administrator to make sure that change control during that migration period is going to be locked down, and you're not going to suffer from undue changes that are going to occur during your migration period. It's just coordination based project management, but changes to your tenant can affect performance and behavior of your PWA during the migration. Number 5, this probably is a step that takes a lot of time on our side, again, depending on the data set. And it's probably, if you're going to be migrating data, really the most important end result, which is we verify and validate that what went into Project Online is actually has a high degree of data integrity compared to the source. So what that means is that you're going to have to do verification validation. Now, you can do that using tools that are or features that are within FluentBooks. I think if you're investing in a migration to Project Online and you're taking a large set of projects, the price of admission, the cost of FluentBooks is sufficient enough just for verification and validation. Why are you going to take the risk in entering into a large migration of projects with a risk of having poor data integrity on the migration side? So, like I said, this is probably the most understood reason for relying on FluentBooks and FluentPro for support during the migration. And then finally, if you are using, seen in a lot of cases that organizations and partners, they'll run into trouble. They'll make assumptions in terms of what they need to fix, and then they make some serious steps, mistakes in terms of the sequence of loading data, and they find themselves, basically having to start over in some cases, and that again, not having a support team behind you to make sure that you're doing it the right way, and any anomalies that you find are addressed correctly without harming the rest of the migration project. So again, it's a complex endeavor given the nature of Project Online within the Office 365 tenant. So better be careful and better have a lot of the risks mitigated to avoid wasting a lot of time. So talking about mitigation, well, count on FluentPro, and that's really what one of our strengths and what we have been doing for the last 3 to 4 years. Since I have been here, we have participated in more than 200 migrations, either directly or indirectly. We have the experience set. Now, what I want to do now is talk about a little playbook that we put together for organizations that are thinking about migrating to Project Online. So the first thing is assessment. And in assessment, the first thing that you can do is document the PWA configuration in Project Server. So what we will be providing at the end of this month is no cost use of FluentBooks for Project Server PWA documentation for migrations. So if you're entering a migration to Project Online, you can make contact with FluentPro in order to receive a documentation copy of FluentBooks. And we can use that output to help you or your partner define the migration strategy. So we currently request a migration success questionnaire if you're actually going to be subscribing to the tools. But now, in order to support you even further, we're going to be providing the ability to do that documentation. It'll be the only feature that will be enabled for as a first, but it will give all of us an idea of the challenge that we are going to be facing with your migration. We're trying to get closer to a scenario where that assessment component, that assessment first step, if you were in our November web, talked about assessing the data and going time, understanding exactly what is it that we're going to take the project online. So it's one of the steps to get us closer to that assessment step. So the second is if you haven't been exposed to project online, we are also allowing or offering the ability to use a GA to create a demo sandbox with the Microsoft demo data in the customer tenant. So I want to be very clear, this is customers to have a sandbox in their own Office 365 tenant. I know there's other ways of obtaining demo sites, but in this case, we have found that providing access internally to the customer stakeholders to project online within their own tenant has a tendency, getting more folks involved, having given more ownership to the migration project, and overall giving the team members that are going to be migrated to project online, if they are coming from project server, just an early experience of using a project online. So again, at no cost of an organization that's going to project online, once a demonstration's created, a PWA created, a sandbox within their tenant, they will be able to do it on request from FluentPro. And we'll be using GA Suite for that. Like I said at the beginning, a lot more change management features will be going into the GA Suite, and this is one of them where you can actually copy PWAs. So next comes, let's assume that you're not interested really in migrating projects. You're only interested in migrating the configuration from the project server production PWA. Well, we're going to be extending the GA Suite in order to be able to do this. We're basically going to pick up the configuration from your project server, your production one, and then allow loading of that configuration with the GA to your tenant, the custom tenant. So this is one easy way of getting into project online very, very quickly. Once it's project online, then the organization or the partner can participate in improving it, streamlining it, and then taking it to production. The GA comes with 2 PWA sites, so you have the ability to actually create a test and a production site eventually, and that cost listed there is a base subscription for the GA, which means that you can perform operations between those 2 PWA sites over a period of 12 months. So if you're interested in going from project server to project online without content, in other words, just focusing on the configuration, this is a very quick and cost-effective way of doing it. And then fourth is what all of you that have participated with us, you migrate active project plans to FluentBooks by going through the entire process, which is what Elena just spoke of. So that is the what I'll call the full migration path of content and configuration, and for that there's the migration questionnaire and the support that we provide. So that's a quick playbook that we are offering. And again, if you're interested, leverage the complementary tools that we have. Request FluentBooks for project server documentation if you're involved in a customer migration or an organization that's about to begin. Get a GA sandbox, a PWA demo sandbox, so that you can start exposing the organization to project online. And the only not limitation but rules that it has in the organization is tenant. There's again other ways of getting demo sites, but in this case the condition. And then finally, depending on what your migration is going to be, whether it's actually just configuration or configuration and content, then you have the the options of using the GA Suite or FluentBook. So go ahead and subscribe. From a change management standpoint, GA Suite comes with backup, so that's a tool that you're going to need in the long term. So that is all that we have for today, and what I would like to do is open it for questions now. I'll see if any are right now. I don't have any, and I think one was answered. The budget resources need to be renamed pre-migration if they're enterprise or only if they're local. Alona, can you are you still on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, I think you answered. You want to go ahead and answer it for everyone?
Yeah, so the question was if budget resources need to be renamed pre-migration if they're enterprise or only if they are local. Basically, before the migration, no resources need to be renamed because it's not about their name, it's about the fact that it's a cost budget resource assigned to project summary task. Manual operation is required after the project is uploaded to the target PWA, because basically during the first save and publish of the project to the PWA, it is not possible to change local cost budget resource to an enterprise one. And to avoid the conflict between local and enterprise resource having the same name, FluentBooks renames the local cost budget resource appending one to the name. So after the project is initially created, saved and published to the PWA, it should be opened back from the PWA into Project Professional, and this resource needs to be corrected. To do this, you would need to add an enterprise resource from the pool into the team, and then change the assignment from the local resource to the enterprise one, and save and publish this project back into the PWA. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all we have in terms of questions. So unless anybody else has anything else, we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll be distributing the slides and also the recording, so you'll make sure to get what we have in here in terms of slides. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to make contact, and we can address any migration inquiry directly. Thanks everyone for joining, and look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.